Killua activates Godspeed and travels at a pace of 240 kilometers per hour. As such, how long would it take Killua to travel from Kukuru Mountain to Heaven's Arena on a dark and stormy day whilst being pursued by Illumi? It's a simple question, but no matter how many times Gon does the maths, he can't quite figure out that the answer is subscribing to this channel for regular Hunter x Hunter updates straight to your YouTube feed. Hello and welcome to the New World Review, your source for everything anime and manga. And today we're going to talk about one of the greatest lurking threats within the entire Hunter x Hunter world, and one that for the most part goes by completely unnoticed by fans, being Gyro. Now, if you don't remember Gyro, or you sort of only vaguely remember the name, well, that's what today's for, because we are going to be getting into why this man is, without a word of exaggeration, one of the most unparalleled threats within Hunter x Hunter, as well as what role he may play in the future. But first up, I think it's very important to recap this very fleetingly featured character, as well as highlight the difference between his appearances in both the anime and the manga. Because I'll tell you right now, if you have only watched the 2011 anime series, there is a very key difference that may make Gyro something of an underwhelming random character from your perspective. And I really don't understand why it was changed in the anime adaptation. It's just one of those weird things. I mean, especially since they went to all the trouble to adapt the character at all, but whatever. But that very, very important difference is that Gyro was actually present in Dolly City when Gon and Killua were training to face off against Knuckle and Shoot in order to earn the right to join the Chimera Ant extermination team. And not only that, but we were made aware that Gyro was on the very same street where Gon, Killua, and Knuckle were currently present. And that narration went as follows. Gon and Gyro did not end up meeting, and Gyro left this town and disappeared somewhere. Whether that was fortunate for the two of them or not, it will remain unknown until they eventually meet. So incredibly ominous words there that go so far as to set up Gyro as a major character, if not a major antagonist for the future of Hunter x Hunter. Now, whether or not you subscribe to that train of thought is of course entirely up to you and your own personal interpretation, but I have come to take these words quite seriously. And I think that feeling only solidifies when we look back on Gyro's past and his context within the story. Because it's actually pretty insane how much we know about this character, when in the grand scheme of things, he has had almost zero narrative impact thus far. There are far more theoretically important characters in this series whose pasts have not been touched on whatsoever, but for some reason, we know Gyro quite intimately. So much so that almost an entire chapter is dedicated purely to exploring him. And just to briefly go through what we know, basically Gyro grew up in a construction camp, the son of a very poorly paid worker who spent his days and nights engaged in a drunken stupor. He would also allegedly almost never speak to Gyro, which impeded his development, but not only that, his father would of course beat him furiously if Gyro bothered him in any way, shape or form, which included making creaking noises from rolling over in his sleep. As such, not only did Gyro learn to lay bricks before learning how to speak, but he also forced himself to sleep without moving a single muscle, living by his father's mantra, which was "don't make trouble for anyone." And those were effectively the only words he ever stated to his son. But even with all of this, Gyro still believed that his father loved him, despite all of the evidence clearly stating otherwise. But the moment when this would all change is when Gyro got into an altercation that his father stumbled upon. But instead of doing the fatherly thing and helping his son, Gyro's father just walked away, leaving him to be savagely beaten. And at this point, Gyro formed a core truth within himself, which was that the world, nay the universe, did not care about him, and coming to the conclusion that he was not human. This would be the only true lesson he learned from his father, setting up the rest of Gyro's existence, and shortly after this event, Gyro murdered his father by cracking his skull open with a hammer, stole what little money he had, and left the construction camp with a profound hatred of all humanity, as well as the determination to see it suffer. And it has actually been said that Gyro's driving will is to spread evil throughout the entire world. Now, apologies for the history dump there, but I do think that Gyro's past, as well as the extreme detail we know it in, is very important to this discussion, because this is some serious backstory for a character who, as far as we know, may never appear in the series again. That's not quite the end though either, because 9 years after leaving the camp, Gyro went on to form NGL, the Neo-Green Autonomous Life Zone, which eventually became its own nation and is best known to us as the location where the Chimera Ants began their reign of terror upon this world. And actually during said reign of terror, Gyro was killed and consumed by the Chimera Ant Queen. Although his fate from there was radically different to most Chimera Ant victims, because the thing about Gyro that I haven't mentioned as of yet is that the series goes to great lengths to describe him as a proud king, which is stated by the narrator in the manga to most likely be the reason why he was so easily able to resist the Queen's control and move freely in his new Chimera Ant body. So there was no moment whatsoever where Gyro was under the control of the Chimera Ants. He just reincarnated and went off his own way. That and his determination to spread pure evil throughout the world is what kept his human memories intact. And this is incredible because no other Chimera ant has followed this straightforward a path. I mean, yes, other ants have eventually regained some of their memories and become something of the people they used to be prior to being killed, but Gyro's memories, drive, and pride were so unwaveringly powerful that he was never at any stage anything less than what he was prior to his consumption, and that should truly terrify you. The fact that this man's desire to plunge humanity into despair by spreading pure evil throughout the world is so strong that it transcends the process of death is nothing short of astounding. It would be a very difficult task to find a character in Hunter x Hunter whose sheer will is anywhere near the level of Gyro's. Kurapika is probably the closest I can think of, but to be honest, Gyro's desires kind of make Kurapika's revenge quest look pretty cute in comparison. And what's worse is that Gyro was reborn into the vessel of a Chimera ant, thus giving him access to potentially devastating power, especially if he learns to harness his aura through Nen. In fact, I'll say it right here and now, if Gyro is able to become aware of and master Nen, it's just game over for the world. Nen is a wonderfully unique power system because it basically is an expression of pure will and desire that allows its user to harness their own life force to produce an outcome that they feel strongly about. And Gyro, as we've established, feels pretty damn strongly about evil. And I want to emphasize that because in storytelling, I think the word evil is thrown around far too haphazardly. It's often used to describe characters who I think would be far better labeled as something more basic, like narcissistic, selfish, or even an extreme dick. That, or it gets applied to a boring, monotonous demon-style character who can't be anything but bad for the sake of bad. But evil here, in regards to Gyro, is being used with its intended meaning. We're talking profoundly corrupted humanity with sinister intentions that I don't even think a demon could ever hope to match. And when we're talking about evil, I once again struggle to find any character in the series who could even compare to Gyro. Like, I would never call Hisoka or Chrollo evil characters per se. They are antagonistic and morally ambiguous, but evil? No, absolutely not. They take far too much enjoyment from being human, and in the case of Chrollo, they do actually have their own code of morality. You could maybe make the argument that 4th Prince Tsareidnik of the Kakin Empire represents evil, and he is certainly one of the more terrifying characters I think we've ever encountered, but once again, this man is driven by a sense of enjoyment for what he does, which in his mind is creating art. Gyro, on the other hand, takes no enjoyment from his actions. They aren't performed to satisfy him personally, they are performed for the sake of evil, pure and simple. It is a raw, undiluted force, and it is going to go completely unchecked within the Hunter x Hunter world. And that's not to say that there aren't characters aware of Gyro, there definitely are, such as Welfin and Ikalgo, who eventually recalled their previous lives as his subordinates, and in fact Welfin believes that Gyro would be headed to Meteor City in order to rebuild his nation and set his ultimate plan into motion. Not that Welfin is going to try and stop him though, in fact he seems more eager to join Gyro's cause, believing greatly in his former leader, which is also absurdly dangerous because it shows that Gyro possesses the charisma to warp the minds of those around him to form the building blocks of disseminating evil. And this Welfin train of thought is also quite important because he is well aware of Nen, and if Gyro isn't, then he certainly will know of its power if and when Welfin finds him in Meteor City. So at this point, I believe it's incredibly clear that Togashi did, at least at one stage, set Gyro up to be a major presence. Not just because of focusing on his past, or by that ominous narration of how he and Gon are ultimately going to meet, but through characters like Welfin and Ikalgo, who have these connections to him that go on to drive their own characters. It would all just seem like a bit of a waste if this man just disappeared into the ether. But we do have to face the narrative reality of Hunter x Hunter as well, because currently the greater cast of the series have left the human realm and are en route to the Dark Continent. So for Gyro to be playing a part in this, he would need to be on his way as well. But I see limited possibilities in regards to why he would do such a thing, and this is because Gyro's primary mission has to do with humanity, so he has no real reason to leave the center of Lake Mobius. If anything, that's counterproductive because it's taking him away from humans. The only logical reason I could see for Gyro traveling to the Dark Continent would be to perhaps purposely bring back another calamity and set it loose upon humanity. But even then, I find it far more likely that if Gyro were to return to the story, it would be after the events of the Dark Continent, which, I know seems like an awfully impossibly long time away, but perhaps something could happen along the lines of our characters return to the human realm and discover that Gyro has ravaged the entire human world thoroughly with evil and have to stop him. Or perhaps Gyro's story plays out simultaneously with the Dark Continent arc. So while everyone else is away, it falls to Gon and maybe Killua to face off against Gyro in the human realm. Whatever the case, Togashi almost certainly had a very clear idea of how Gyro was going to be used in the future, but this being Hunter x Hunter, I have to admit that he could easily change his mind at a whim. He may have gotten bored of the idea, or he might just think that there's no chance of getting to the point where it comes to fruition. And actually, it's not like this whole Gyro thing was always guaranteed to go somewhere, because Hunter x Hunter did have a natural ending with Gon and Jing. Even Togashi stated that he has effectively ended the series once, and often thinks that maybe he should have just left it there. But the story keeps going, and as a result, we will keep questioning its future. And Gyro is one of those questions that, rather unfortunately, may never be answered, which is a shame because from everything we know about him, he has the potential to be one of the most interesting antagonists in the entire series. He would be an exploration of what it really means to actually be evil, and it's the sort of idea that I know Togashi would be able to rock, and a great way to cap off the series. But whether or not this ever comes to fruition, always remember that this man, or well I guess not a man anymore, because even when he was human, he didn't consider himself a man. So always remember that this force of pure evil is lurking within this world, and whether it happens in front of our eyes or not, he is going to unleash quite literal hell on earth. But that pretty much does it for this discussion on Gyro. If you enjoyed this video and the content this channel produced in general, then please do consider donating to the New World Review Patreon, because the support of all of you amazing people is what continues to make this channel possible. And if Patreon isn't quite your style, then please do leave this video a like, share, or subscribe, because it also helps support this channel an incredible amount. And if you'd like to join the fun at any time, then please do head over to my Discord server, where a wide array of shenaniganry takes place on a daily basis. And finally, please do comment with your thoughts on Gyro and his potential future in Hunter x Hunter. This has been the New World Review, and I'll see you next time.